You got Caleb? Okay. 2 minutes to go here into the close on this Friday, January 23rd. A market may be in search of an identity because right now across the major market indexes, one and all, the S&P 500, the only major market index that may finish, and I caution may finish, maybe a tail of the tape here into the close, may finish in positive territory. But right now, the small caps at this hour, the hardest hit on the day with the Russell 2000 down almost 2% and a fair bit of profit taking across the other majors as well. As for the S&P 500 on this Friday, energy, materials, and staples, those are your strongest performing sectors. Losses to the downside today led by financials, industrials, and utilities. Really seeing that risk off, kind of sell the rally tape on this Friday. Welcome to the broadcast, one and all. You are watching Taking Stock, and I'm your host today, JD Durkin. We're just a few moments away from the ringing of the iconic closing bell right down here on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. The incredible team from Zeta, ticker symbol ZETA, down here on the floor of the big board. They are set to do the honors in just a moment's time and will also be on the broadcast coming up in the next half hour. The 10-year Treasury yield down just a little bit, let's call it 1 basis point or so, but still pretty elevated, especially going back to the September and October levels. Gold and silver reaching a fresh all-time high. Silver for the first time ever, $101 an ounce. Caleb Silver's on deck. He'll join us after the bell. Time now for Zeta to do the honors. That man, David Steinberg of Zeta, will join us coming up just a bit here on the show. As for the Dow 30, Microsoft, Amazon, and NVIDIA, a few Mag 7 names there ahead of Mag 7 earnings. Those are your strongest performers out of the Dow 30. We do have losses today from Goldman Sachs, Caterpillar, as well as Disney. Advanced to declines telling us about 2 decliners across the tape for every 1 advancer as we officially say goodbye to another week here on Wall Street. Let's bring in the great Caleb Silver. Speaking of silver, that's low-hanging fruit. I had to do it. Thank you for being here, editor-in-chief at Investopedia. My man, is everyone feeling bullish optimism right now in these markets? What are you seeing in the data at Investopedia?
Coming into this week, this has been a choppy week because of all the headline risk, and we've had a lot of headlines. Just think about what we've had in just the past 5 days. That's like a year's worth of news. But coming in, sentiment was high. You look at all the investor sentiment surveys, our own, but also AAII. You had 8 out of the last 11 weeks bullish. You look at global fund managers, cash positions, record lows. The protection they're buying against the stock market falling, also at multi-year lows. So when everybody's this bullish and you get headline risk like we had this week, you're going to get some choppiness.
We are nerds for this stuff. We love to talk old school Dow theory, but it's kind of no longer just transports and industrials. Maybe there's a bit of a new play for a bit of a Dow theory trifecta. What are you following,
Yeah,
Caleb?
you got the trifecta. You got Dow transports, Dow industrials, and semiconductors all reaching 52-week highs. Last week coming into this week, a lot of them still at multi-month, multi-year highs. So that's Dow theory. When you get Dow theory, and Charles Dow knew something when he developed that, that's momentum, and that's broad-based momentum. We talked about the advanced decline line today, two down for every one up. That has not been the case. We've had a pretty good, robust momentum indicators lately, including the advanced decline line, including more stocks trading above their 50-day moving average. So momentum was here until the headline risk hit.
Yeah, and a lot of these big positive sessions on Wall Street, it's not just narrow leadership. We've seen nice breadth a lot of these sessions. We've been doing the show into the closing auction here. Cash levels at record lows. Is there still a dry powder that's fresh on the sidelines waiting to be deployed if we get another tariff-fueled pullback or a deep-seek style pullback? Is there money ready to go to work for retailers?
There's plenty in gold, but there's also still $7 to $8 trillion in money markets. It doesn't mean it's all coming out and going into the stock market, but if momentum continues and you see these corporate profits continue to grow, you see this favorable tax environment, and the agenda, the foreign and economic policy agenda of this administration becomes clear. Read Greenland, read Venezuela, looking for energy, looking to build out defense. You see all these different sectors that are going to get a lot of spending. That's usually good for stock market returns.
Caleb, the last few years, you and I have sat down for many interviews. We always like to talk about those top stocks that we are seeing retail investors kind of more naturally gravitate towards. NVIDIA has always been at the top or near the top of that conversation. Is that still the case here in early 2026?
Yeah, it's the most widely held by individual and retail investors. We know that from our surveys. We also know that because it's the heaviest stock in the index as well. Also, lately though, the most traded stock at about 6.3 times its normal trading volume. So there's a lot of churn going on in the big tech names there. Intel with a big sell-off this week on the earnings miss, but also Apple involved in that as well. You're seeing a lot of churn in the big, widely held stocks, even though those are the ones that most of us own and say will hold for the next 10 years.
Anything really interesting to you? Any big surprises that you're seeing in terms of where retail investors are gravitating towards, or maybe some counterintuitive plays that they're kind of rotating out of right now?
Yeah, well, defense is getting a good look because this policy from this administration is becoming crystal clear. Stronger defense, stronger spending on defense, the building of the Golden Dome, all of those things. So people are researching all of that. Best way to get exposure to defense after a long period of time where that wasn't a great sector to be in necessarily. So there's that going on. Obviously, the heavy metal trade. Gold and silver, American record highs. I don't see that changing anytime soon. That's been the ultimate hedge. And we're going to need a lot more gold and silver, but the demand for it as the hedge, really the only real hedge right now to the equity market, that's going to remain robust.
Please come back on the show soon because next Wednesday, Man Earnings Palooza kicks off. We got the Fed press conference, the decision and the press conference next Wednesday. We got to leave it there. The great Caleb Silver, editor-in-chief at Investopedia. My man, thanks for being here as always.
Thanks for having me.
Jeremy will take your mic. Howie, you and I are going to head this way and go for a walk. Hi, Ashley. All right, folks, time now to give you a day 15 gut check because today is the 15th day of trading here on Wall Street in 2026, and that means we are almost, I'm sorry to say, 6% through the trading year here. We'll take a quick look at the leaders and laggards in the Dow. The strongest Dow performer so far here this year is Boeing, shares up 15%. Honeywell comes in next, up 13%. And how about Home Depot shares having a strong start to the year? They are up 11%, pardon me, Sarah. Last year's big winner in the Dow, by the way, Caterpillar, not off to a sluggish start by any means. It's up 9% or so. At the bottom of the Dow, Salesforce has already sold off 13% since the start of the year. Apple shares still struggling to find their footing. Apple's down 9%. And JP Morgan Chase kind of getting battered after reporting earnings early on in the season. JPM down 7.5%. How we'll take a look here. How about this NYSE notable on the day? Hello, Alaska Air Group up 4% on the day, reporting quarterly results for the fourth quarter after the close yesterday, reporting adjusted EPS of 43 cents a share. Did beat estimates, and despite a bit of a miss on revenue, still up huge on the day, more than 4%. Corporate travel growth for the company up 9% year over year. The current average analyst rating on this stock is a buy, and even though Alaska Airlines stock is down 30% over the last 52 weeks, hey, it's the strongest performing airline today, closing back above its 200-day moving average. FinTech TV is announcing an exciting new partnership alongside Canadian University Dubai, bringing 24/7 coverage of the latest blockchain, digital assets, and artificial intelligence news you need to know directly to the Middle East. They held a very exciting signing right here today at the New York Stock Exchange. Take a look. And there you have it, an incredible moment for the entire teams, everyone involved here at the New York Stock Exchange earlier today. We'll also bring you an interview all about it. FinTech TV's very own Remy Blair sat down with Dr. Karim Chelli all about this exciting announcement. Take a look at that as well.
Here at the New York Stock Exchange, FinTech TV and Canadian University Dubai have inked an agreement to bring education and financial news together. FinTech TV will launch a studio on campus at Canadian University Dubai, and this does make Dubai the central hub for FinTech TV's Middle East expansion. CUD students will gain direct access to FinTech TV's global studios, including right here at the New York Stock Exchange. Joining me here to break down the impact of the agreement is Professor Karim Chelli, the President and Vice Chancellor of Canadian University Dubai. Karim, great to have you here. Congratulations on this news. Tell me your initial reaction.
Um, First of all, Remy, thank you so much for having us here at what I consider the mecca of finance. Uh, Going through a lot of emotions by being here. It's one thing to see it on TV. It's a whole different experience to be between these walls. A lot of history, fantastic educational tour. Since we have the chance here to speak as a Canadian university, I think uh, I will, my first words goes to Vince and Roy for their trust. We're thrilled to be the university of choice. Dubai today is a central hub for finance, for fintech, and also for education. And the merger or the marriage between these three sectors of activities, I could not find a better place than a downtown Dubai and the university that is the only university in downtown Dubai called the Canadian University Dubai. So thank you.
Yes, and welcome. So first, I do want to ask you about is Canadian University Dubai. What sets it apart from other educational institutions in the region?
Um, to start with, this is the first Canadian university in the world out of Canada. It's fully accredited by the Ministry of Higher Education, and it started with two and then three partners: Centennial in Toronto, Athabasca in Alberta, and then University of New Brunswick in New Brunswick. Today, we count around 30 universities coast to coast from Canada, helping through the curriculum, policies, and faculty and the staff to shape the education in the Middle East, particularly Dubai, and grant over 147 student nationalities a Canadian perspective in learning and research. So it is one of those premier, I would say. It's an avant-garde university, and we are very thrilled to be part of this absolute success.
And speaking of success, especially for the student population, why was it important for CUD to host a fintech TV studio on campus?
Um, this is what I would call the outcome of a very, very long 20 years. That's the age of the CUD. CUD now in 2006, actually, we are going to celebrate our 20 years in a couple of months of 20 years of existence. So we always believed in what we call the problem solving approach in education. So it's a hands on experience coupled with the idea of experiencing the curriculum in the lab and the studio, and bringing the subject matter experts that are in the field to the classroom, to the lab. So having a fintech TV inside the premises will allow the students, the faculty, and the researchers to experience what they have been teaching, and to finally close the loop by integrating the hands-on experience alongside the education, whether in communication, in marketing, in advertisement, in finance, and more importantly, in blockchain, AI, and fintech. So this is, I think, uh, the ultimate objective of the Canadian University Dubai is to equip students with the experience so that they can go and try to create jobs rather than seek for a job.
Well, Kareem, thank you so much for sharing the story of CUD. And as you mentioned, as we kick off a new chapter, I look forward to working with you and your team as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
My
you so much.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's do it, folks. Welcome back to the show. You're watching Taking Stock live from the trading floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Very, very excited to say Paul Graywall joins the show now remote. He is the Chief Legal Officer at Coinbase. Paul, I have been looking forward to this conversation all week. Really good to have you. Like the rest of the world of financial media, we are really dialed in about what is going on with the latest over the Clarity Act down on Capitol Hill. Can you tell me about how Coinbase is currently positioned on that conversation down in Washington?
Well, it's good to be here with you, JD. And it's especially good to be with you as we are in the throes of some very intense discussions across Washington on the right way to bring market structure legislation finally to the Senate floor and over to the president's desk for signature. Your audience is going to remember we have made great progress on crypto legislation in the last 12 months in Washington. Last year, Congress passed the Genius stablecoin bill, which provided clarity and certainty for that important part of the crypto market. But it's time for Congress to finish the job, and we're hopeful we're going to see that happen in just a few short weeks.
Paul, what are you seeing with regards to bipartisan support, maybe one way or the other? Democrats maybe lean in one way, maybe Republicans in a different, or do you kind of see most members of Congress, for the most part, aligned?
Well, it's interesting, JD. Crypto has been one of the few issues in the past year plus that Democrats and Republicans in Washington can agree on. The House passed its version of the market structure bill last year on a bipartisan basis, in fact, a record bipartisan basis. And we've seen the Genius Act that I mentioned earlier also pass with large numbers of Democrats and Republicans agreeing that rules for crypto make sense as this important asset class really reforms and reshapes how financial systems work. I do think that there are important issues that remain. It's important that we work through them. But I do think we're going to be able to resolve them on a bipartisan basis based on everything that I've heard.
Paul, what is your expectations with regards to how you see the DOJ weighing in, maybe going back down to the state level for further litigation about this? I mean, after all, a midterm election year, you know as well as I do, if you're a member of Congress, yeah, you got a lot of stuff to get done, but in the back of your mind, you may be foremost focused on re-election above anything else.
Well, politics is rarely far from a policy in Washington, and crypto is no exception. But with respect to the market structure legislation that we're now working on, there's no question that the politics actually all align with getting a bill done. The key issues that remain in dispute, JD, whether it's rewards for holders of stablecoins, whether it's tokenization of equities, protections for DeFi, are all issues that can and should be resolved on a bipartisan basis, for the simple reason that the 52 million Americans who have been involved in crypto at this point want to see this resolved, and they vote both blue and red.
Paul Graywall, Chief Legal Officer at Coinbase, here to make the case. You're welcome back, you and your colleagues from Coinbase, anytime. Enjoy your weekend, Paul. Really nice to have you. Folks, if you're watching the broadcast, don't go anywhere. We got much more Taking Stock coming up after this quick break. Welcome back to the show. Now the great David Steinberg himself, CEO of Zeta Global, fresh off of the closing bell podium here at the big board, now joins us here on the broadcast for Taking Stock. What a pleasure to have you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, JD.
I know you are no stranger to this world, but can you tell me about today's experience ringing the closing bell? You had an amazing team, ton of enthusiasm down here at the big board to say goodbye to the markets today.
I don't care who you are. When you come down to this building and you ring the bell, you are humbled. It is an amazing experience to share with my team. I'll quickly, I grew up in New York City. I used to walk by this building and dream that one day I would get to enter it, let alone ringing the bell for a company as amazing as Zeta.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, it's great to have you back here. And of course, you don't need me to tell you, you are welcome back here and on the show anytime. Let's talk about the launch of Athena. You're rocking the hat right now. It's
Athena,
an amazing logo.
That's
Your
right.
new conversational super intelligent agent. What should we know about it?
So what Athena is going to do is reduce or eliminate the friction between humans and artificial intelligence. So instead of having to figure out a prompt or figure out what you're doing, it will literally guide you into how to make your marketing 10 times more effective and efficient.
Talk to me about the partnerships announced and other top takeaways from CES here in 2026 out in Vegas. I know it's a big one for your team.
Yeah, well, we announced a partnership with this little artificial intelligence company you might have heard of called OpenAI.
Loosely familiar.
So obviously I'm teasing. The biggest partnership we've ever signed at Zeta.
Wow.
We are incredibly excited. It's going to make Athena foundational to ChatGPT and vice versa. So you'll be able to use Athena when it's fully production ready anywhere using your mobile device.
How does a relationship like that even come together? Because we just see the headlines on the outside, but you've been cooking on a deal like that for a long time.
Yeah, it's not, you don't wake up one day and say, hey, we want to work with OpenAI,
Of
right?
course.
We've been working for many, many months. We had been using their API. We had been partnering with them. They saw what we were doing with Athena. We got it in front of them, and they were incredibly excited. And really, one of the things that I think we were talking about was the value proposition to Zeta. One of the other really interesting things was they really didn't want to build enterprise software to compete with us. They felt that partnering with somebody like Zeta, where our platform could sit on top of theirs and we could partner, was a better play for them in marketing.
David Steinberg, the CEO of Zeta Global. Unfortunately, that's all the time I have. Please come back sometime on the show. It'd be a real pleasure to have you back.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Really good to see you. Congratulations to you and the team on all the really exciting start here to 2026. Don't go anywhere. We've got much more Taking Stock coming up after a quick break, and we will bring you an interview from Kristen Scholler, who sat down with Nick Dukoff of the Solana Foundation. Don't go anywhere.
NYSE-listed digital asset infrastructure company BitGo generated headlines as the first crypto firm to IPO in 2026. That's not the only news the company is tied to, though. Blockchain ecosystem firm Ondo Finance says that it is bringing BitGo stock on-chain to the Solana platform. Well, joining me now with more is Nick Dukoff. He's head of institutional growth for the Solana Foundation. Nick, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me.
How big of a development is this for the industry?
Yeah, it's huge. So earlier, in the last year, we saw some of the exchanges go public. Coinbase a few years ago. Last year, we saw Bullish, Gemini, others go public. Then we saw some tokenization companies go public, Circle for stablecoins, Figure for real world assets. And now today we've got BitGo in the infrastructure space that's gone public. I think it just shows the maturity of the industry and how there are lots of billion-dollar companies out there that are going to be able to access capital markets. And that, of course, brings more liquidity to and interest to the ecosystem, which will grow it. And it becomes a flywheel, which is terrific.
Why is bringing a stock on-chain on day one important?
Well, I'm really excited to share that Ondo has brought BitGo to Solana on day one, as you mentioned. So what that means is that in addition to folks that can buy BitGo today in their brokerage account, Fidelity, Schwab, or whatever, people all over the world, the 80 to 100 million monthly users of Solana all over the world can now buy BitGo directly in their Solana wallet. And that is an incredibly amazing development. But why is it important on day one? Day one is important because it really shows the market where that stock is headed. If there's a lot of interest on day one, that again brings more eyeballs to the stock and there'll be deeper liquidity and there'll be more trading in it, and that will ultimately help that stock perform well over time. Of course, not always, but generally. And it's wonderful to see a stock go public here on the New York Stock Exchange and also go public on Solana on the same day.
It is incredible to see just the action that has been transpiring, certainly here on the floor. Now, when it comes to Solana, what makes that an attractive venue from their vantage point to launch an asset?
Yeah, well, like I said, Solana's vision is to have all assets and all global investors trading in the same liquidity venue. And so what you have with the New York Stock Exchange is all of the brokerages that have that stock, of course, and their customers can trade it. But with Solana, you've got all of the people in the world that can trade that tokenized equity. So you're not just limiting yourself to whoever has a brokerage account. You've got the whole world. I was with one part of the leadership of Pakistan's crypto uh, uh, apparatus last week in Switzerland during the CFC conference, and he was telling me only a few 100,000 people in Pakistan have a brokerage account, but 40 million have a crypto wallet. And so when you think about that, if you're limited only to the folks that have access to a brokerage account, that's a much smaller universe of investors than those that have a crypto wallet.
And Ondo has announced that it's brought over 200 tokenized stocks and ETFs to Solana. What does that mean in terms of expanding what's possible for on-chain finance?
It's wonderful to see Ondo bring 200 equities to Solana. That now brings us to 250 because previously Kraken, through their company X Stocks, which they recently acquired, had 50 stocks tokenized on Solana. Also today on the big screen, we had Superstate, which raised a $82 million Series B financing. Superstate has tokenized Galaxy stock and Exodus as well on Solana. So you've got companies like Superstate, like Kraken with X Stocks, like Ondo, all bringing tokenized equities on Solana. And right now, while it's only a few hundred tokenized equities among the thousands that are publicly listed, one day I'm certain all assets will be tokenized on Solana.
Nick Dukoff, head of institutional growth for the Solana Foundation. Thank you so much for joining me here at the New York Stock Exchange.
Thanks so much for having me.
Next week here on Wall Street, it is all eyes on Wednesday. We get the Federal Reserve's decision on short-term interest rates crossing the wire at 2 o'clock, one of Jerome Powell's final press conferences as chairman of the central bank at 2:30. And then this is what it's all about, folks. We got earnings after the bell Wednesday from Microsoft, Meta, as well as Tesla. A very busy several days here on Wall Street you do not want to miss. That is going to do it for today's edition of Taking Stock. Have a very good night, a very safe weekend for everyone in the path of the upcoming storm. We'll see you again Monday here for the New York Stock Exchange.